It's hockey night tonight. Tension grows, the whistle blows, and the puck goes down the ice. The goalie jumps and the players bump and the fans all go insane. Someone roars, Bobby scores at the good old hockey game. Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game.
Coming up on this week's Faceoff, a big trade happens, another coach gets fired, and a player totally quits on a play that ultimately costs his team the game.
They storm the crease like bumblebees. They travel like a burning flame. We see them slide the puck inside. It's a 1-1 hockey game. Oh.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Faceoff, USC's only weekly radio hockey show. I'm your host, Graham Jenkins. Later on in the show, I will discuss two big trades involving the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I will also talk about a team that went on a very unlikely 12-game run. But let's begin today's show by analyzing a major trade that happened yesterday between the Dallas Stars and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yesterday, Dallas Stars general manager Joe Nieuwendyk traded captain Brenden Morrow and a 2013 third-round pick to the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for Pittsburgh's 2011 first-round pick, defenseman Joe Morrow, and a 2013 fifth-round pick. Brenden Morrow was Dallas's first-round pick in 1997. He was drafted 25th overall from the Portland Winterhawks and played 14 years with the Stars. In 835 games with the Stars, he tallied 243 goals, 285 assists for a total of 528 points. He also racked up 1,203 career penalty minutes with the Stars. At 34 years old, 14 years into his NHL career, this is the first time he will play for another team. Now, what exactly does Pittsburgh get with Brenden Morrow? They get a player who is not afraid to put his body on the line for the team. He will crash the net for a gritty scoring chance, and he will definitely park himself in front of the opposing goaltender while the Penguins are on the power play. He's also going to dig for loose pucks in the offensive zone, no matter how much the opposition harasses him. He will be a blue-collar asset to a Penguin squad that is undoubtedly loaded with talent that will try to make a deep run into the Stanley Cup playoffs, if not win it all, which is ultimately their goal in making this move. Just for good measure, though, Brenden Morrow waived his no-trade clause to be traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins, so he wants to be there. However, here is a word of caution for Penguins fans, and this will come from watching him for over the last 3 years. Because Morrow is a gritty, hard-nosed player, his body has suffered quite a lot, and that has hindered his point production. After putting up 33 goals, which is a career high for him in the 2010-2011 season, he missed 25 games due to injury last season. And at some points in that season, he was reduced to fourth-line duty. Whether or not his production increases dramatically with the Penguins, likely playing on a line with James Neal and Evgeny Malkin, that remains to be seen. But honestly, I won't be surprised if he does actually end up putting more points with the Penguins because he will play with more skilled teammates. Now, why did the Stars trade their captain 10 days before the trade deadline? First of all, Brenden Morrow will be an unrestricted free agent after this season, and the Stars didn't show any signs of holding on to him after this season. The Stars also avoided a situation with Brenden Morrow that happened with them, unfortunately, with Brad Richards in 2011, when they lost him to free agency and got nothing for him, even though at the trade deadline in 2011 they fielded offers from multiple teams, most notably the New York Rangers, where Brad Richards ultimately went to in free agency. But Richards had a no-trade clause in his contract with the Stars, and the Stars were in the middle of a playoff hunt, which ultimately fell apart in the month of March and April. Oh, in the months of March and April, pardon me. Whoever would have traded for Richards would have had to give up a lot. With all of that in mind, though, the Stars exchanged one Morrow for another Morrow. And now let's examine Joe Morrow a little bit. Joe Morrow was selected 23rd overall by the Pittsburgh Penguins in the 2011 NHL Draft. He almost made the NHL squad out of training camp, which is quite impressive. That speaks not only of his potential, but also how deep Pittsburgh is defensively. Should he not immediately crack the Dallas Stars roster, what exactly does he bring to the Stars organization? In his time in juniors with, oddly enough, the Portland Winterhawks, where Brenden Morrow played his junior career, from 2008 to 2012, he played 227 games and scored 33 goals and assisted on 111 others for a total of 144 points as an offensive defenseman. Because he's an offensive defenseman who will reportedly have to work on his defensive zone play in order to be considered by scouts NHL ready. With that in mind, though, he still projects to be a top 4 defenseman for the Dallas Stars. The addition of Joe Morrow gives the Stars another prospect at the blue line, as Jamie Oleksiak, Patrick Nemeth, Troy Vance, and Ludwig Byström will look to be mainstays on the Stars in the near future. I left out Brendan Dillon because he is considered a rookie, but he is playing top-line minutes and is arguably the Stars' best defenseman aside from Stefan Robida. To speak more on Joe Morrow's offensive game, he's got a very heavy shot. I foresee a lot of one-timers from the point on the power play from him that will either beat the goalie or cause a big enough rebound for somebody else to put in. One scout compared his slap shot to Anaheim's Sheldon Souray, who we all know has one of the hardest shots in the game. He will also be called upon, Morrow will also be called upon to lead the charge out of the defensive zone to go on the attack because of his puck handling skills. Stars fans can expect to see him play at the beginning of the 2014-2015 season, if not earlier. Now, I want to highlight some of my favorite memories from Brenden Morrow, which all come from the playoffs. In the first round of the 2007 playoffs against the Vancouver Canucks forward Alexander Burrows slashed Morrow in the back of the left leg, which briefly prevented Morrow from putting any weight on it. Now, what did Morrow do in response to this? He hopped all the way over on one skate to the Vancouver bench and went after Burrows and the rest of the Canucks on the bench. He took on an entire team on one leg, and it was really awesome to see and something you want to see from a captain that was in his first year of captaincy with the Dallas Stars. Now, in Game 6 of the second round of the 2008 playoffs against the San Jose Sharks, Morrow played perhaps the best game of his career. The first memorable event in that game involving him was a gigantic hit he placed on Milan Michalek just before the game went into overtime. Morrow caught Michalek with his head down and delivered a thunderous shoulder-to-shoulder check that knocked Michalek out of the game and gave the Stars a big jolt of energy that they needed the rest of the game, since it ended up going into 4 overtimes. While that was a huge moment for Morrow, it wasn't necessarily the biggest one. The most memorable Brenden Morrow moment was scoring that power play goal on Evgeny Nabokov in the 4th overtime to send the Stars to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since the 1999-2000 season. It was the second overtime goal he scored on the Sharks in that series and the biggest goal he has scored in his career thus far. Stars fans will definitely miss Brenden Morrow. He was a class act who never complained about anything while with the Stars. He dealt with being on a team that was bankrupt for 3 seasons and watched his teammates that helped to lead the Stars to their last playoff run move on. He suffered a severed wrist tendon in 2006 and a torn ACL in 2008 in his career. That hasn't stopped him from playing. He truly led by example as a captain of the Dallas Stars. He's going to be missed in Big D, and Pittsburgh will be extremely lucky to have a player like Brenden Morrow on their team. Coming up after the break, breaking news. Find out what it is. You're listening to KXSC's The Faceoff, USC's only weekly radio hockey talk show. I'm your host, Graham Jenkins, and I'll be right back.